Aloha, everyone. I trust you're all having a great day. Um, Someone messaged me yesterday and they asked me to make a video um, regarding the energies coming through and how it affects our psyche and how it affects us physically. And so while I was thinking about that, I picked up a few books that I have. I like to read some inserts out of some of the books that I have sometimes, and it all kind of correlates together because everything begins in our mind. Our thought processes create the reality around us, and so we're all living in one spectrum together. So everyone's thought processes have created and are creating our own reality. And so we are receiving ascension energy. We receive energy from the moon. The moon is Earth's satellite, which transmits a signal from each star system, the signs, the zodiac signs in the sky. So knowing that we are receiving energy from outside sources that affects us physically, it affects our psyche. We're literally like upgrading our bodies. So of course, it's stimulating the neurotransmitters in our brain, which affects how we think and feel about things. It affects our memories and all sorts of things. And so while we cannot control our mind, we can be mindful of it and attached to what thoughts come in, because we're not always the ones sitting here thinking. Our thoughts come from outside places through the channel. And so it's about attaching, choosing which thoughts to attach to and creating the ones that assist us to manifest. Our mindfulness, our thought processes, all of that is our manifestation power. And the way we think, the way we speak about ourselves and others creates that frequency of receiving. And literally, the way that we think and feel affects us physically as well. Our physical health, our mental health. And so I wanted to read a few things to you out of some of the books that I have, which is really phenomenal. The first book I'm going to read out of is called Theta Healing. I started reading this book, and it's so powerful. It teaches how to manifest and also use our empathic healing abilities to channel that for other people and ourselves. And so the first thing that I wanted to read out of the Theta Healing book by Vienna Stibal is about brain waves, our brain frequency. When we understand the different types of brain waves that we have, we can better understand the way that we think and how we can use that to create the magic we want in our lives. We become the wizard of energy. And so it says to beta. Beta is whenever you are thinking, talking, and communicating, your mind is in beta. Beta waves have a frequency of 14 to 28 cycles per second. Beta is the state in which you are active and alert. The next brain wave is called alpha. Alpha is the bridge between beta and theta. In the alpha state, your brain waves are moving at a frequency between 7 to 14 cycles per second. The alpha frequency is linked to a very relaxed meditative state of mind. Alpha waves govern daydreaming and fantasizing and denote relaxed and detached awareness. People who do not function well at this frequency will experience memory difficulties. For example, if you were aware that a particular dream or meditation was quite powerful, but you can't recall the details, sufficient alpha frequencies were not generated. You didn't have the bridge between the subconscious and the subconscious mind. To more fully understand the alpha state, close your eyes and imagine a sunset. See in your mind's eye the sun setting against the ocean and seagulls flying low near the shore. This is the beginning of inducing an alpha state. When we tested Reiki energy healers on the electroencephalograph, we found that they were using the alpha brainwave. In Reiki, the practitioner brings the source into their body. The energy is then manipulated through the hands to heal a person. that showed that when source energy came into the healer's body and into the hands to heal, the brain was in an alpha state. Alpha has been known to take away pain and is useful in healing. The third brain wave is called theta. And theta is the super important one, at least for me at this point in my life. The theta state is a very deep state of relaxation. This is the state used in hypnosis and dreaming. In it, the brain waves are slowed to a frequency of 4 to 7 cycles per second. In fact, sages meditate for hours and hours to reach this state, as in it they are able to access absolute calmness. And the more we practice that, it's not something that we have to meditate on. It becomes a state of mind. Theta brainwaves can be thought of as the subconscious. They govern the part of our mind that is layered between the conscious and the unconscious. They hold memories and sensations. They also govern our attitudes, beliefs, and behavior. They are always creative, inspirational, and characterized by very spiritual sensations. It is believed the theta state allows us to act below the level of the conscious mind. It is the first state of the dream state. It is the state we are in when we stand on top of a mountain, completely absorbed in our surroundings. At that moment of realization, we experience the absolute knowing that God is real. We just know that God is. When we access the theta state and call upon the Creator, we connect to the Creator of all that is to heal a person instantly. And that's the state of manifesting in the theta. In theta healing, when you imagine yourself going above your head through your crown chakra, your body will be in an alpha state on the in that graph that they were using to measure. It has been shown that when consciousness is sent through the crown with the focused thought that it will go up and out and seek God, the brain automatically shifts to a pure theta state on the graph. What did the ancients mean when they said go up and ask of God? When you imagine lifting your consciousness above your head through your crown chakra and you go up and ask of God, your brain waves instantly shift to theta. The next state is delta. A delta state of mind happens when you are in a deep sleep. In a delta state, the brain waves are slowed to a frequency of 0 to 4 cycles per second. It is also this state that is utilized when the phone rings and we intuitively know who is calling. Gamma. The gamma brainwave is the state we are in when we learn and process information, receiving and sending energy such as downloads. That's what gamma frequencies are, upgrading frequencies. Gamma waves stimulate to release the beta endorphins. They appear to be involved in higher mental activity, including perception and consciousness. In this state, your brain waves cycle between 40 to 5,000 cycles a second. I really like listening to gamma waves on YouTube. It's a higher frequency. In times of emergency, the brain has been observed to switch back and forth between gamma and theta with no other wave present. This seems to be a natural response. Gamma waves disappear when a person is under anesthesia. They may be involved in binding a variety of sensory inputs into the single unitary object we perceive. Recordings of neurons in the visual cortex show the synchronization in the gamma band links part of the cortex excited by the same object and not those excited by different objects. For instance, the color, shape, movement, and location of an object are processed in different ways in the visual cortex. And these features of an object need to be reunited into a single entity. This is known as the binding problem. And gamma rhythms are thought to provide a solution. In fact, this process is so efficient that we are hardly aware that it even goes on at all. And so, when we understand the different states of brain waves and when they happen at specific times, we can tap into meditation. We know that in a theta state, is when the mind is clear and we allow the channel to come in, and we're able to cast out into the channel in a pure thought process without talking. Talking is the beta. Talking to each other, it puts us in a beta state. And so whenever we're doing healing on someone, when we're talking to them, we bring them up to a beta state, but then they go back to the theta to be able to introduce the healing that's coming up. And so when we recognize that our thoughts create brain waves that send signals to our body, we can get really dialed in on what that means. And so the next part that I wanted to read is from one of my favorite books that I've been reading off and on, and it's called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he is a neurologist, and he's really super cosmic too. And so I like reading. They break down the chakra, the energy points in the body. And so I wanted to read to you about this because this is really awesome. So they're talking about the energy centers of the body, which is the chakra is our aura around the body, which is affected by certain organs within the vessel. So it starts to say that, as you learned in the second chapter, when consciousness activates neurologic tissue, it creates mind. Mind is the brain in action. So if each one of these energy centers has a plexus of neurons, then each has its own individual mind. Or better said, each center has a mind of its own. When activates, the mind is energy with a directive and intention, a conscious intent. When each of the centers becomes activated, it in turn activates hormones, tissues, chemicals, and cellular function as it emits energy. For example, when your first center, the seat of your reproductive glands, is activated with energy, its mind has a very specific agenda and intention. When you as a conscious being have a thought or a fantasy, that's consciousness, by the way, acting on neurological tissue. The next thing you know, your body is physiologically changing, and therefore so is your energy. Your body secretes chemicals and hormones for those corresponding glands to emotionally prepare you for intercourse. You have more energy in that center now, and it's releasing its own specific frequency, carrying an intentional message. That energy carrying the conscious intent is activating that reproductive center. And the mind in the brain is influencing the mind in the body at the level of its individual nerve plexus. This mind located in that specific area of the body through this mini brain operates on the subconscious level through the autonomic nervous system. It's beyond your conscious control. We could say that the body is now following the mind as the mini brain in the energy center activates the related glands, which in turn activates corresponding hormones that signal the appropriate chemical to change the body's emotional state and physiology. And then you are emitting a very clear energy carrying a specific directive out of that center. We have all felt that kind of energy from a very sexual person. Once the energy is moving through that neurological tissue or plexus of neurons, it creates mind at that level. So when it's activated, the center has a mind of its own. So as we can see, like the different parts of the brain activate different chemicals and reactions in the body that literally sends a signal. It projects it outwardly. So our thoughts are attached to those feelings, and our feelings create those thoughts. So when we feel something and thoughts come up, it's our choice to do it's our choice in what we do with those thought processes. Because our subconscious mind rules our conscious mind. When we feel something, boom, something comes up from the subconscious mind into the conscious mind, and that is the ruler of our being. So if you feel something and something comes up into your mind and you don't like the thought processes, you have the choice to change them. That's the beauty of regeneration, the regenerative vessel, and that is led by the regenerative mind. It's really simple. If we don't like the outside world around us, we don't have to be in it, and it all starts with our thought processes. We use the situation. And so if the current situation doesn't feel good, then we must shift our thought processes to create a new. It doesn't mean that it instantly gets us out of that situation, but it opens the portal of shifting energy. If we don't like the way we feel in our life, if we feel the outside world is not aligned with who we are, then all we have to do is shift who we are to align properly in the outside world. Everything is a reflection of how we feel, of how we think, of how we've tasted and smelled. All of those senses play into it. And so if we're not aware of how we're feeling, then we're not aware of what we're thinking. And so that's why feeling is a natural response. It's a natural etheric thing. And our thoughts are created by human, channeled, either guidance or stuff that can really hold us back. I have found that since I have let go of the things that no longer serve me mentally, that have been created by myself and heavily influenced by others, I've been able to shift my whole energy, my whole aura. Since I've started taking care of my mind and my own thought processes, naturally I've begun taking care of my body, my vessel. I love myself, and I love my mind, and it doesn't always feel great, and that's just part of this experience, but it's the awareness of that it always doesn't feel great, because we pick up energy from people and things around us. If you live in a big city, not only are you absorbing the energy of those around you, but you're also absorbing the artificial energies as well. EMF, Wi-Fi signals, power lines, all of that stuff creates a frequency. So when we recognize those things, we can become more in tune with how we feel, therefore shifting how we think. Reality is created by thought. Everything we eat, everything we see, everything has come from somewhere else, from something else, from someone else. And so it's a matter of choosing how much of someone else we want to engage in. For me, healthier eating, not drinking alcohol, not smoking tobacco, not doing drugs anymore. And I've stepped in and out of those things, to heal my cycle with those things. And I just see that just like my own thought processes, anything I consume in my body is affecting my thought processes, the longevity of my vessel, how long I get to stay here, and how healthy I am during that process. If we're not happy, if we're unhappy in our minds, it's going to create that same vibration in the body, just like I was reading on a cellular level. A lot of illness comes from unhappiness. If the neurotransmitters in the brain aren't firing off properly, then we're not being healthy. The brain only produces 5% of serotonin. The rest of it, the 95% of it, comes from the gut, the digestive system. 95% of our thoughts are subconscious, the unconscious thought. So if you think about how the gut produces 95% of our serotonin, which makes us happy, healthy, and that 5% of our thoughts are unconscious, then, the 5% or whatever the percentage is that we use, it's important to be really mindful in that, because it affects the greater part of who we are, the longevity of our life, how we interact with others, how we feel physically. Since I've started taking care of my body, I just don't feel sick. I don't get sick. My immune system's way up. There's a whole thing, and it all starts with our thought processes. It doesn't have to be achieved overnight. It's not a race. There is no end point. The present moment is what is the most important, what we're doing with our lives now. How are we feeling and thinking? What are we doing to our bodies that reflects that same mindfulness in here? The actions that we perform ourselves shows the world our own psyche, our reactions. And so when we become master of the self, learning the self-mastery, it's not just our thought processes, but it becomes a form of reacting in all ways, whether it's our own reflection or the reflection of ourselves in another. Mindfulness is just so much easier. It's just about recognizing that we don't have to stay in the old patterns in which we were before. If something doesn't feel good, if we know we really shouldn't be thinking and doing those things, well, then why do we continue to do it? It continues the karmic cycle of the past, and it doesn't allow the space to manifest properly. And so that's why it's important to recognize that manifesting comes from a vibrational mind, and we choose the frequency in which we choose to receive and return, because we manifest all day long anyway. And so if you're in alignment and you're receiving a lot of synchronicities and you're seeing a lot of magic in your life, then that is the path. We're on the path, the internal journey to align with the outside world. And so if you want to learn to manifest in ways that feels good for you, just learn to love yourself and realize that we don't have to take everything so personally, and we can shift anything we want in any moment just because we felt a certain way yesterday. We don't have to hold ourselves in a box just because others try to. It doesn't work that way. We get to create the graphic field of our own matrix that is in tune with all of consciousness. And so making higher vibrational choices is really what aligns us in the spectrum of the law of attraction. Quantum physics is a real thing. And so using our thought processes, using our mind to heal illness in our body, sending a true signal to heal the stomach or in any spectrum that we don't feel good. And if we don't believe that we can do that, it won't happen. And that's what I realized, like the whole believing, faith, trust thing is for real. Because if you don't think you can heal yourself, you won't. I mean, it all the way down to the molecular parts of our body, all the way to the astral parts of our psyche. It's all connected in every single spectrum. If you are a healer and you perform Reiki or whatever it is you do, then you believe it. Therefore, you can do it on yourself. It's the same thing. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in healing and giving energy to others that we forget that that comes from ourselves. We do that for ourselves. And so when we take care of ourselves while we nurture others, or even shutting the outside world out to get right within, that is self-care. That is self-love. Because what we give another, what we share with another, we receive in return. It's quantum physics. It's law of attraction. And so, that assists me to be in a higher state of my reactionary impulses so that they're not mindless. And yes, we react sometimes and then we have to catch ourselves so that it doesn't continue. No one is perfect. We act in many different types of ways. The perfection comes with the awareness of self. That way we can shift it. And being able to communicate those things with the people around us when it happens versus like doing something and not taking ownership and recognizing it and communicating it, because really all we want is information as humans to say, oh, okay, this person is communicating with me, that they're being mindful of their actions. Like that snips the cord on a frequency that wasn't authentic to the being giving it. Right? So if we're able to communicate those things, and that's where it's at. Now, that doesn't mean that person has to accept the communication, but it is stored in their minds. Therefore, it is a seed that has been planted. So that means the work has been done. The healing has been initiated. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me. I love you to the moon. Have a great day.